Up next, our final speaker is Zakar, the CEO of Polar Extracts.
All right. Thanks, Morgan.
Yeah.
This is cool today. My favorite part of this industry is definitely the medical side, where we actually get to really help people. So this has been a really cool conference so far. I would like to speak about the technology and infrastructure side of our industry. And again, I'm Zakar, co-founder of Polar Extracts. As a lot of you might notice, and actually as Cheech brought up, flower is kind of old school now, right? If you look at data from just the 2 years since California went adult use legal, less than 50% of consumer spending is in the combination of pre-rolls and loose flower, which means more than half of spending is actually on mainly vapes and edibles, but in the medical markets, that's also tinctures and topicals. And that's particularly interesting because those things, you can't just kind of get them right out of the green plant that our farmers are growing. You've got to do some concentration and some extraction first. And that's what we do. For anyone who's not sure exactly where it all kind of breaks down, you grow the plant and then you've got to do some chemical processing before it gets into the manufacture and distribution. And by extraction, I really just mean taking the desired compounds or molecules out of the overall plant biomass. There's a lot of stuff you can do when you're processing cannabinoids and terpenes and stuff you want out of an interesting plant like cannabis. But no matter what you do, you've got to start by getting it out of the plant. So what we're seeing is that since the fastest growing and already more than excuse me, half of the market is in concentrate derived products, getting to reliability and consistency of those concentrate supplies at scale is what all of the companies of the future are going to need. So what we're building at Polar Extracts is exactly what we think the industry needs next. In order to continue to scale, the infrastructure needs to scale accordingly. And specialized large-scale chemical processing is going to be a critical component of that. As I said, I'm Zakar, I'm CEO of Polar Extracts. My co-founder and I are both serial entrepreneurs. I have a background in sales management and community building. And Sean Kelly is my co-founder. He's a PhD rocket scientist with a lot of experience in prototyping, mechanical engineering, and specialized experience in cryogenic ethanol extraction, which is our preferred method. We like it because we believe we can get, and we've shown we can get very high quality, very high efficiency and healthy extracts from plant sources, so long as we're using cultivators who are also at high quality. And efficiency is important. If you've ever tried to do anything in manufacturing, you know that it is very capital intensive. So the real question for an investor conference like this is, how do we grow a company like this without requiring tens of millions of dollars to build giant factories? We think that the bottleneck in much of the cannabis industry is this processing infrastructure, but for us, the real constraint is access to capital. What we're doing is building mobile extraction labs that we can use to tackle some of the logistics, distribution, and scalability concerns of building processing technology and factories. They're mobile units, which are built in shipping containers or trailers. They can be manufactured in a central location, but they can actually do their processing in a decentralized fashion, locating either directly on site at a farm or in a ideal geographic location. This also cuts down on some of the other costs like real estate. And the technology, to the extent that it is safe to put our IP somewhat outside of our hands, allows us to explore some licensing opportunities. I'll very briefly talk about the economics, but I'd rather get to questions. But essentially what I'm most happy about is here in the bottom left corner is, due to some customer development I've been working on the last 5 or 6 weeks, we're prioritizing just those companies, mainly hemp farms in Southern California, who are willing to work with us on contract processing or toll processing agreements. And what that means is that we don't have to outlay any capital for biomass. So our inventory costs go essentially to zero, and we can just spend our money on people and machinery. So to do that, we're trying to raise right now $800,000 in this seed round on a safe. And as I said, it's primarily towards the manufacturing equipment. And to further develop our IP portfolio, we want to be actively doing the processing rather than just selling machines, because we know we're going to only get better at doing it by doing it at scale. And I think that's all I'd like to talk about in my presentation, but I'd be very interested in hearing some questions.
Perfect timing. Thank you, Zach. Yeah, why don't we, Joyce being on the farm, for mobile extraction, how about you want to kick us off?
Yeah, definitely. So what does the licensing look like? Is it you put like a type 6 processing or a transport license? Obviously, we're seeing a lot of farms coming online. So and the processing, a lot of them don't have on-site processing. So the thought of like driving that 50 miles, 100 miles elsewhere, it obviously is really cumbersome. So I think there's a lot of scale to this, particularly in the next sort of 1 to 3 years as folks are starting to build out their things. As an example, we do not have a processing facility on site, which is going to be a problem. So this is definitely, I think a great area, but I'm interested, how do you grab a license for this?
Yeah, sure. I agree. It's probably, we hope at least, and we're going to advocate that it does become more normal over the next few years. Right now, we're actually mostly working just with the hemp CBD companies because we're also still figuring out exactly how this is going to work on a licensing and regulatory standpoint in the THC touching market. But I would definitely be interested in talking to you more and seeing if we can figure that out together.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
All right.
I guess I had a follow-up question about the mobile compliance. So is it simply a licensing play, or are you planning on trying to figure out how to remain in compliance as you move into emerging markets or even existing markets? How's that going to work out?
With compliance in the THC side?
Correct.
Yeah, that, like I said, that's still somewhat in flux, and we're figuring out. We've been getting conflicting answers from most people we're talking to, so I think everything is still changing pretty rapidly. This includes environmental and fire safety and distribution, and as well as cannabis licensing. So it's still pretty up in the air, but we're working on it, and we're planning to employ some consultants as well.
Hey, Zach, so I may have missed it, but unit economics on the actual pods, however you're calling them, what's the cost to build one of them out, and what's the throughput or revenue per month, year, however you define that?
Sure. We're expecting to average out about $400,000 to build the shipping container size. And throughput will be roughly 500 kilograms of extract produced a month or more.
And you're charging per kilogram extracted? How does the tolling model work for you in terms of price?
Yeah, that it's usually it's usually just based on a percentage of however much is produced. We'll negotiate a cut with the farm if they want to retain a certain amount. We're also largely doing that model here at the very beginning for capital constraint reasons, but we expect to be also in the business of purchasing biomass and wholesaling extract to manufacturers as kind of the longer term business model.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can you talk about?
Yeah, go ahead, Daniel.
Can you talk about sales and where you are in terms of contracts or licensing partners currently? What your plan is for scaling that, and just maybe I missed it, but like, is this currently legal in any U.S. jurisdictions, like to do the mobile extraction? Are there other companies doing it?
We're legal in the hemp CBD side, and we're building some machinery right now for some Southern California based farms. As far as THC side, I've gotten different answers from different lawyers, so I'm not sure I want to say in a public forum that I agree with one or the other. But yeah, we are installing some processing on hemp farms in the Bakersfield area, north of Los Angeles right now for 2 different companies.